Hey, did you see this? This is from Ontario, but it could really be from anywhere in Canada or the United States or the UK, some of the worst. Like I said, it was a glorious July weekend. Most parts of the country, if you're fancy, you can go to your private cottage or cabin or lake house, but if you're not fancy, you don't have a private cottage or cabin or lake house. You can't afford one, but the beach is just as much fun and it's free. Yeah, no. Look at this, Florida or Toronto. Sadly, Toronto went for a Sunday stroll at Bluffers Park. While some are respecting social distancing, many more are not. No City of Toronto bylaw officers in sight. Yeah, those insane Florida people, so irresponsible. I mean, CNN said so. Insane Republicans down there, except that Florida, which has exactly 50% more people than Ontario, it doesn't have 50% more deaths from the virus than Ontario. Ontario is deadlier. But sure, if you're an anti-American media party reporter in Toronto who gets all their info from CNN, have at her. But it's actually safer to be in Florida than Ontario, if that's your thing. But look again at the photo. It's a shot at a certain angle. I think in art that's called foreshortening. I'm not sure. It looks pretty crowded, right? Except everyone's standing, well, because everyone's standing so close to each other. But as you can see, some people are smaller than others, and some are much, much smaller than others. But in real life, they're not smaller. The photo's taken at a certain angle to make everyone look jammed up on top of each other. But in fact, that photo, which has 100 people in it, shows a stretch of beach hundreds and hundreds of years long. It's an optical illusion that everyone's jammed together through foreshortening. But the greatest trick is this. A Global News reporter goes to the beach to enjoy himself and is mad that other people have gone to the beach to enjoy themselves. This was a great reply to that Global reporter. But look at what the Global News reporter did. He tagged in his photo John Tory, Doug Ford, and the public health officer. He's tattling on people. He's not reporting. He's being a scold. He's calling the manager, manager, I'd like to report someone else at the beach. If you think that's a bit much, well, look at what some politician said at Ontario's Wasaga Beach, about 90 minutes drive from Toronto. Look at this. We saw human behavior at its worst. Overcrowding an issue at Wasaga Beach, Ontario on Canada Day. You know, I've been to Iraq, to refugee camps from the Islamic State. I've talked to survivors of the terrorism. I met a Yazidi rape slave who had fled to Germany, who told me she was raped 240 times by terrorists before she lost count. They have slaves there. Even still, every day we learn about horrific treatment of humans by other humans, about civil rights being destroyed, about violence and crime, and even genocide today. But none of that compares, you see, not to CTV News, not the barbarity of Islamic terrorists or open-air slave markets in Libya, not the Soviets or the Nazis. We saw human behavior at its worst. Overcrowding at the beach on Canada Day. Wasaga Beach, eh? Sear that name into your memory. That's another Flanders Fields or Mile High. If you click the link, you get this story from the CTV. I mean, just look at that horror. People, sitting in the sun, minding their own business. And funny enough, not wearing masks when it was 30 degrees out. The town of Wasaga Beach is cracking down on overcrowding at the beach. Town officials said the Canada Day crowds were the final straw. After 3 weeks of physical distancing issues, are those really the worst people in the world? I mean, the beachgoers, not the shrieking town hall politician nobodies. I'll read some more. Town council also passed a bylaw that would see fines of up to $750 for anyone caught in the closed areas of the beach. Just let me say, if you are one of the people who gets those insane tickets, just send them to us at fightthefines.com. Don't pay the tickets, fight them, okay? But is it true that going to the beach makes you the worst person in the whole history of the whole world? And by world, I don't just mean planet Earth, but all the other planets in the solar system. Are you the worst person in the solar system? No, that's just what some weirdo politicians and bullies are saying. Here's what Dr. Bonnie Henry, the public health officer for British Columbia, said. Now, I'm not interested in picking and choosing my public health officer in a great big public health officer brawl, because frankly, any one of them will say anything on any given day. But just listen to her for a second, if you would. Take a listen.
There has been, there was one study that we've been looking at that looks at 138 different clusters, and there was a single one that was associated perhaps with people in close contact outdoors. So the transmission risk is much less outside, as far as we can tell, in that as long as we keep our physical distances from people. So being outside, as long as you're with your group, your home, your bubble, that is fine. And maintaining your distance from others. The risk that somebody who is sick is spreading this virus from coughing or sneezing outside, and you walk by them very quickly, even if it is within 6 feet, that risk is negligible. That's not the way this virus is mostly transmitted. I mean, we always say never in medicine, but the risk would be infinitesimally small. If somebody runs by you, somebody walks by you, even if they were within 6 feet.
Wow, she used the word infinitesimal. I think that means tiny. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.